This video is sponsored by SquareSpace. SquareSpace is the all-in-one website platform to help you stand out online, but more on them later. This is the first TAG Heuer I have ever owned, a neo-vintage 1996 TAG Heuer F1. I bought this for my husband and I to share, but then quickly learned that we aren't very good at sharing, so this is the second TAG Heuer I've ever owned. And yes, I bought two TAG Heuer F1s a week before the Kith Heuers went live. I can't tell if that's very lucky or unlucky. But we're not going to be talking about the Kith Heuers today. Today is just about these 1990s icons of TAG, why I bought them, and what I think of these after owning and wearing them for a couple of weeks now. If you're new here, my name is Brittany, and this channel is all about watches, and it has become the place where I've been documenting my watch collecting journey for the past three-ish years now. Now, the TAG Heuer F1 is kind of the perfect storm for me. I love Formula 1, I love watches, and I love anything that makes me feel nostalgic for the 90s. I'm a Canadian, so the 90s mean the Blue Jays have just won the World Series, girl bands are everywhere, and the biggest worry we had was Y2K. Simpler times. And I remember seeing people wear this watch, and I thought it was so cool. I wanted one so bad. My husband, on the other hand, was actually one of the cool guys who owned this watch. This exact model with the black and white, so of course I had to buy it. I feel like being an adult is just mostly buying the things that you really wanted when you were a kid, but you couldn't afford it then, but you have a credit card now. And that's what these purchases were for me. Looking at the watches themselves, these have a case diameter of 35.3 millimeters when measuring from 10 to 4, a thickness of 9 millimeters, and a lug-to-lug of bang-on 40 millimeters. To the modern wearer, these case proportions are tiny, especially because this is the men's model. But at the time, these weren't notably small proportions. I was picking my husband's brain about it, and he said he didn't remember thinking of this as a small watch. In fact, his friends at the time were after 34mm Air Kings and 36mm Explorers, so a 35mm tag didn't seem small. He was even remembering back to his early 20s when he bought a Rolex GMT Master 16700, and he said he almost didn't buy it because it was too big. The shopkeeper had to talk him into it by saying, you'll get used to it. You'll get used to the big size. It's crazy how quickly the styles change. I don't think many men nowadays would comfortably and confidently pick up a 35mm and rock it. But it all really depends on your wrist size and your personal style. So here's the F1 on my 5.5-inch wrist and my husband's 7-inch wrist. I don't say this very often, but I think it looks equally good on both of our wrists. Usually, watches look better on my husband's 7-inch wrist, but I think this suits both of us. These are a product of their time, from the size to the use of quartz, the colors, and they're an important piece of Heuer history. The F1 was released in 1986, and it was the first model bearing the name TAG Heuer, after TAG, or Technique d'Avant-Garde, acquired Heuer, the legendary watchmaking maison. TAG was a manufacturer of high-tech aviation and race car components and closely linked with F1 as a Williams sponsor in 1980. But the team I really associate with TAG is McLaren. I promise I won't talk too much about F1 because I know people come here for the watches, but I love F1, so indulge me just for 1 minute here. Throughout the 80s and 90s, there was a deep professional relationship between TAG and McLaren. In 1983, they co-developed the TAG Porsche V6 power plant, and by the mid-1980s, TAG was a pretty prominent sponsor of the team, just behind Marlboro. The TAG Heuer Formula 1 further cemented the bond with the McLaren pit crew rocking the red F1s to match the Marlboro red of the car. This mid-sized quartz watch was marketed to a more budget-conscious, younger, sportier market. I don't think any more needs to be said about Formula 1, but I do need to have a quick, violent outburst of 1980s Formula 1 drivers. Niki Lauda, Alain Prost, and freaking Senna. I am calm. This seems like a lovely place for me to calm down and talk about today's fabulous video sponsor, SquareSpace. It's 2024, baby! If you're doing anything online, whether it's YouTube, maybe a photography business, anything entrepreneurial, you need to have a website, even if it's just a little one-pager, which is something I still don't have because I'm a Muppet, but we're about to change that right now. So look at this. Look at this. So they have flexible website templates tailored to your specific needs. So I like the artsy fartsy ones, like this one, monochrome, and then you can customize it to fit you and your style. If you don't like how things are placed, no problem. They have this thing called Fluid Engine, so you can drag and drop and position things however you'd like. So I don't want any of these. Bye. But I do want people to be able to see my videos. And look at that, a simple one-pager about me. Done. This needed doing for a while, actually. But they offer all sorts of features depending on your unique needs, like an online store, selling merch, or making appointments. Go check out squarespace.com/BritPierce for a free trial. I'll put the link in my description down below. Go click that so they know that I sent you. And save 10% off your first purchase of a website domain. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. And now let's get back to TAG Heuer F1 goodness. Design-wise, I feel like these are pretty divisive. I've heard people complain that they're tacky and awful.
How dare you!
And others say they are nostalgic and awesome. Honestly, I feel like two things can be true at the same time. They are kinda tacky, but a slice of fun, kinda like going to Vegas. But they're also nostalgic and pretty well made. These were cheap and cheerful watches of their time, retailing for $136 in 1986, which would be about $370 in today's money. A bit different than $1,500, eh, Kith Heuer? Hey! But no, Brittany, we said we're not gonna go there, we're not gonna get into it. I just feel like these were so close to being so right, but that pricing. Oh. It has completely lost the spirit of these. The ones I have are the later models, so these have a stainless steel case and bracelet. The earlier variations were a resin plastic. These have 200 meters of water resistance, a quartz movement, tritium lume, as indicated by the T Swiss made T at the bottom of the dial. Looking at the dial, we have the TAG Heuer logo just under the 12 o'clock, Mercedes hands, a quick set date at 3 o'clock, and a unidirectional bezel. The stainless steel is bead blasted, which gives off a matte effect, which I also think has helped these age so well. Flowing into the Jubilee style bracelet, which feels so vintage. It's not delicate, it's just old and charming. You can definitely see some stretch has happened here over the years. Completely normal. It's a 30-year-old watch that has been worn. And we have the TAG Heuer stamped clasp with micro adjustments along the side and a diver's extension. One of the ones I bought, this one actually, came with the box and papers, which is always preferred. It costs a little bit more, but it's always my preference to have all the documentation. So the outer box should look like this. It's a bit worn, but still really great condition all things considered. Here's the actual watch box. I don't plan on selling these on or anything, but I just like having all the parts. Let's talk about the price and what I paid for these, because I actually think they were priced okay. So I paid £400 for this black and white one, and $450 for the blue one that came with the box. I probably should have and could have talked them down lower, but I got so caught up in the moment and I just wanted to own these. So I paid what I paid. I wouldn't pay over £500 or about $630 USD for one of these. I've been wearing this every day since I've gotten it. It's just so easy to choose. It's so happy and nostalgic and easy to wear. And the timing couldn't be more perfect following Lando Norris and his big win at the Miami Grand Prix, driving, of course, for McLaren. And then I now have the watch I associate with McLaren and F1. This watch is honestly the perfect storm for me right now. It is the perfect watch of the moment in all my interest in everything that's happening right now. Now, I said I wasn't going to talk about Kith Heuer, and I wasn't going to, but as someone who's clearly quite the enthusiast of this watch, I feel so disappointed by this reissue. I just feel like it was such a wasted opportunity, and in some ways it captured the spirit of the original, but then in some other big key ways, it missed the mark, namely with the price. The original F1s were these cheap and cheerful entry-level watches. Like actually entry-level, being $100. They were always meant to be this fun, accessible quartz watch that would attract younger people. Pricing these Kith Heuers at $1,500 or 1,300-ish pounds, and then making them super inaccessible, super limited. completely misses the mark, completely does not embody the spirit of what this watch is supposed to be. This could have been such a huge reissue for TAG, especially after the success of the Moon Swatch, showing that there is a market for this kind of stuff. Maybe if it was priced at £700 at a push. £500 sounds more right, and it's still expensive. I think they could have had some real Moon Swatch levels of pandemonium on their hands if they played their cards right.
But of course they didn't.
But I also suppose this is the most TAG thing they could have ever done. Have mountains of potential, have all the right ingredients, and then completely botch the recipe. Ferrari strategy.
They're not even there. There's not a single intermediate tyre in sight.
They came in, whether that was the driver who called it or the team who called it, but the crew weren't ready with the tyres, we don't know. But certainly,
with Hamilton's 10 seconds extra time on his stop. Oh no, left front won't tighten up.
oh no! And that is a disaster for Carlos Sainz, 12.7 seconds stationary.
But anyways, that whole rant wasn't supposed to happen, so forget I ever said that. I'd love to know in those comments down below, what are your favorite 90s watches? Do you like these F1s? I'd love to know all your opinions, thoughts, everything in those comments down below. Thank you once again to SquareSpace for sponsoring this video. And now, let's thank the gorgeous, fabulous, wonderful Pope tier patrons. Okay, patrons, I'm so sorry this was so F1 heavy. This will not be every video, it was just this video. But thank you to the gorgeous, amazing, fabulous Pope tier patrons, the names on the screen. Thank you all to your patrons. You keep the lights on here at Gringa HQ. You're all amazing. Thank you so much, guys.